right, mostly on the right. And the Middle East turmoil, ladies and gentlemen, it continues to go right now unabated because I would contend of who sits in the Oval Office. That's our top story tonight. Hamas terrorists continue to attack Israel, and the White House is sending $10 million in aid to those in charge of the Palestinian territory, a terror group called Hamas. Meantime, both sides are ignoring Joe Biden's call for a ceasefire as protests continue in the Gaza Strip. Joining me now to discuss is Florida Congresswoman Cammack. Congresswoman, always great to see you. The White House is insisting this aid has nothing to do with a flare-up of Middle East tensions. Do you buy that?
Absolutely not. I mean, this is ludicrous. We know at this point in time that the world thinks that our commander-in-chief is weak, and this is a half-hearted attempt that just further shows that he is unable to be an effective commander-in-chief or even broker a deal even seemingly close to what a ceasefire should be. We know that the Palestinian Authority has paid its citizens to commit acts of terror using American tax dollars as long as they commit crimes against Israelis or American citizens. And this just further perpetuates the narrative that we're willing to pay stupidly for these crimes to be committed. And when he called for a ceasefire, Biden, did any side listen? No, because he has zero credibility in the world. In international affairs, he has zero credibility because, like his predecessor, President Obama, there was a red line and then it gets moved, and he continually backs down and placates to both sides. So it's just a little too late, too little too late. And right now we just need to stand with Israel and let it be known that we will never waver in our commitment to our Middle Eastern ally.
Yeah, especially in Israel, he has no credibility because the last time he was vice president with, as you pointed out, resident Barack Obama, they couldn't stab Israel in the back enough, whether it be in the United Nations or with American policy. President Trump, on the other hand, he ushered in a new era of stability and peace. They got a lot of deals done. It took Biden less than 100 days to inspire the latest violence, yet Jen Psaki, his spokesmouth, in an attempt to rewrite history, is slamming the Abraham Accords, that's to say, saying that Trump administration had no real progress in the Middle East. This level of dishonesty is actually unbecoming of the White House. Do you agree?
I mean, it's unbelievable. Their attempts to rewrite history simply for their hatred that they have of President Trump, it's unbelievable. In saying that President Trump did nothing constructive in the Middle East, was she asleep for the last 4 years? I'm not quite sure. The Abraham Accords set a precedent of forward progress in the Middle East that hadn't been seen before. When you look at the bold move that President Trump made to move our embassy to Jerusalem, a commitment that has really rallied the Jewish American community as well as our Israeli allies, that's incredible that they would dismiss it. But we're seeing this across the board on all issues. It's not just our relationship with Israel that President Biden is looking to undermine. It is everything that the Trump administration did. They are trying so hard to undermine the last 4 years of forward progress that we made in securing American prosperity and security. Look at what's happening on the southwest border. With the stroke of a pen, they halted all of the progress in securing our borders because even though they knew it was good for American security, they had Trump's name attached to it. And you see what they're doing to the economy. They're wrecking the economy because it was Trump's bold economy. Everything that has his name attached to it, Biden will destroy.
Now, Mr. Biden's policies continue to attack pro-American institutions. We had an exclusive interview yesterday with Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lohmeyer. He's a whistleblower who is outing Marxism that's infiltrating the United States military. Watch this.
Well, one of the things that I've experienced here at my own base, and I know it's not unique to my base, is that in preparation for some of our diversity and inclusion training or our discussions on race, one of the things that we've been asked to do is watch videos that I personally consider anti-American. They're based on premises that are outlined in the New York Times 1619 Project, which insists that our country is evil. And I reject that. The premise or the basis of all of our diversity and inclusion trainings, and I'm not opposed to diversity or inclusion, although it depends on how we define terms, the premise or basis of all of that should be the foundational ideals that we have codified in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, not critical race theory.
Congresswoman, the Lieutenant Colonel has been relieved of his command in the Space Force. Should not Republicans be standing up to protect these whistleblowers when they come forward to reveal to the American people the level of damage that's being done by these woke left-wing idiots in our government?
Absolutely. In fact, about 15 minutes ago, I was on the House floor voting, and as you can hear, those are the buzzers for the next vote to be called. We were having this discussion about Lieutenant Colonel being relieved of his duties. This is incredible that they made such a swift, bold move, talking about something, and I thought what he said was very well articulated. You know, when I was at the Naval War College getting my master's degree, we saw the creeping of critical race theory into the materials that we were being given. But for him to stand up and say what he said, I think is very brave. And we need to do everything we can to ensure that our military is free from this radical idea of critical race theory, that this whole extremist stand down, which is really just another divisive wedge within not just our military, but our country. We need to make sure that people know that it's wrong. And when General Austin,
wait a minute, Congressman, I hate to interrupt, but what you just said there was such a critical point. It's bad enough that these leftists are using this as an impetus to divide our country, to divide our people. But when they do it in the United States military, when these left-wing anti-American freaks, and there's no other way to regard them, in my opinion, these anti-American freaks utilize this idiotic 1619 project and this cancerous cancel culture and critical race theory to divide our fighting forces, to get them shooting at each other, literally and figuratively. That is a step beyond, and it is my opinion, I'm hoping you share it, that members of Congress ought to be behind the Lieutenant Colonel and others like him who are outing this destructive agenda inside the U.S. Armed Forces.
Absolutely. You know, it's beyond the pale what we're seeing within our armed forces. This notion that we have to re-educate our military servicemen and women, that there is something inherently racist within the military. Give me a break. This is insane that General Austin has said systemic racism is more of a threat to our military than anything else. I think he forgot about the suicide numbers that have been plaguing the United States military and our veterans for years. And for him to say that we have to do an extremist stand down and then provide materials that are just inherently racist and wrong, I myself have gotten my hands on that list of books. That is an abomination. And not only should every member of Congress be outraged, but every American should be outraged. It's a slap in the face to everyone who's ever worn the uniform.
Absolutely. And I don't think that the secretary is, he may have forgotten the suicide rate. He also might have forgotten the communists over in China. He may have forgotten that too, Congresswoman. Look, I appreciate the time as always. We'll talk again soon. Thank you very much.